There is a strange moment that almost every English learner knows. You are speaking. You know what you want to say. The idea is clear in your mind. You can almost see the sentence. You know that somewhere inside your brain, the word exists, and then suddenly it disappears. You stop. Your mouth stays open, but nothing comes out. You look away. You search your memory. You repeat the beginning of the sentence, hoping the missing word will somehow return. I wanted to tell you that. And the more you try to find it, the further away it seems to move. Then something even more frustrating happens. 5 minutes later, when the conversation is over, the word comes back. Of course, now you remember it. Now your brain gives it to you, and you think, why couldn't I remember this when I actually needed it? This experience can make intelligent people feel unintelligent. It can make hardworking learners believe their English is weak. It can make someone who understands movies, reads books, follows podcasts, and knows thousands of words suddenly feel like a beginner the moment they open their mouth. But today I want you to understand something important. The problem is often not that you do not know enough English. The problem is that your brain has not yet learned how to retrieve the English you already know under pressure, at speaking speed, in real time. Knowing a word and being able to produce that word instantly are two different abilities. Recognition is not retrieval, understanding is not speaking, and vocabulary stored somewhere in your memory is not the same as vocabulary that is available when your mouth needs it. This is why you may understand the word opportunity immediately when someone says it, but struggle to produce it when you are explaining your own career. This is why you may recognize embarrassed in a movie subtitle, but when you need it in conversation, you say, I felt, bad because everyone looked at me. This is why you may know 10,000 English words on paper and still lose very ordinary words while speaking. Your brain is not empty. Your English has not disappeared. The door to the word is simply not opening fast enough, and that can be trained. Today, I want to walk with you through 7 powerful lessons that can completely change the way you think about vocabulary, speaking, memory, and fluency. These are not lessons about memorizing longer word lists. They are lessons about making English easier to reach. Because fluent speaking is not about having the largest warehouse of words. It is about having the right doors open at the right moment. And once you understand how to train that ability, something begins to change. You stop panicking when a word disappears. You stop treating every pause like a failure. You begin building stronger speaking reflexes. And little by little, the English that has been sitting quietly inside your mind begins to come out. Lesson 1. Stop confusing recognition with real speaking ability. One of the biggest misunderstandings in language learning is this. If I understand a word, I know the word. Not always. You may recognize a person's face without remembering their name. You may know a song the moment you hear the first 3 seconds, but if someone asks you to sing it from memory, suddenly you cannot remember the next line. You may understand a road when someone drives you through it, but if you have to drive alone the next day, you may not remember every turn. Recognition feels like knowledge because the answer is already in front of you. Retrieval is different. Retrieval means your brain must produce the answer without being shown the answer first. And speaking is one long retrieval exercise. Nobody puts 4 vocabulary options in front of you while you are talking. Nobody says, which word would you like to use? A, B, C, or D? You have an idea. Your brain has to find words. It has to put them in order. Your mouth has to pronounce them. You have to listen to the other person. You have to understand their facial expression. You have to decide whether your sentence sounds polite, serious, funny, confident, respectful, or strange. And all of this happens in seconds. This is why speaking feels completely different from reading vocabulary. Reading says, do you recognize this? Speaking says, Can you produce this immediately? Those are different skills. Imagine someone has studied hundreds of recipes. They know what every ingredient is. They can recognize cooking techniques. They can watch professional chefs and understand everything, but they rarely enter the kitchen. Would you be surprised if they moved slowly when they finally tried to cook? Probably not. Why? Because knowledge about cooking is not the same as trained movement inside a kitchen. English works in the same way. You can know a great deal about the language without having trained the rapid mental movement required to use it. And this should actually encourage you. Because if you lose words while speaking, the solution is not automatically, I need to learn thousands of new words. Sometimes the solution is, I need to strengthen access to the words I already know. Think about a word you understand easily but rarely use. Maybe the word is recommend. You hear someone say, can you recommend a good restaurant? No problem. You understand everything. But now imagine you are speaking. You want to tell a friend about a movie. You say, I really. The word recommend does not arrive quickly. So you say, I think you should watch it. That sentence is perfectly fine. But notice what happened. The word was in your receptive vocabulary, but it was not strong enough in your active speaking vocabulary. This is extremely common. Most learners have a much larger passive vocabulary than active vocabulary. Passive vocabulary includes words you recognize. Active vocabulary includes words you can retrieve and use naturally. Your goal is not simply to grow your vocabulary. Your goal is to move useful words from passive storage into active access. How? By retrieving them. Not just rereading them. Not just highlighting them. Not just watching them appear in subtitles. Retrieving them. Here is a simple exercise. Choose 10 useful words you already know. Do not choose rare academic vocabulary. Choose words you genuinely want in conversation. Maybe, recommend, realize, probably, instead, experience, improve, confident, decision, available, explain. Now close the list. Take one word at a time and create a sentence from memory. I recommend this book. I realized I was worrying too much. I'll probably call him tomorrow. Let's go on Friday instead. That was an interesting experience. Say the sentences aloud, then create another sentence, then another. This may feel almost too simple, but something important is happening. Every time your brain retrieves a word without seeing it, the path toward that word becomes stronger. You are teaching your brain. When I have this idea, this word is available. That is speaking training. You do not become faster by only collecting more information. You become faster by repeatedly accessing information you already have. So the first lesson is simple. Do not judge your English only by what you understand. Train what you can retrieve, because fluency lives in retrieval. Lesson 2. Your brain loses words when you put too much pressure on it. Have you ever noticed that you speak better when you are alone? Maybe you talk to yourself in English while walking. You speak beautifully. You remember words. You create long sentences. You sound relaxed. Then another human being appears. Suddenly your English becomes half as good. Why? Did your vocabulary disappear because another person entered the room? Of course not. What changed was pressure. When we feel watched, judged, rushed, or afraid of making mistakes, part of our attention moves away from communication and toward self-monitoring. Instead of simply expressing the idea, your brain begins running multiple questions. Is my grammar correct? Did I pronounce that properly? What if they don't understand? What if I sound stupid? What tense should I use? Should I say have gone or went? Why are they looking at me like that? And now your brain has a traffic problem. The same mental system that should be finding words is also being asked to inspect grammar, manage fear, predict judgment, monitor pronunciation, and plan the next sentence. No wonder a simple word disappears. This is not weakness. It is cognitive overload. Your working memory has limited space. When too many things demand attention at once, performance becomes slower. Imagine trying to carry 7 grocery bags in 2 hands. You may technically be strong enough to carry the total weight, but the problem is coordination. One bag slips, then another. You stop. You rearrange everything. Speaking under pressure can feel the same way. The vocabulary is there, but your attention is overloaded. So one of the fastest ways to improve word retrieval is not always adding more vocabulary. It is reducing unnecessary mental work. The first unnecessary job to remove is perfection. Perfection is expensive. Every time you try to build the perfect sentence before allowing yourself to say it, you increase the load on your brain. You are trying to speak and edit at the same time. Professional writers do not even do that. Writers draft first and edit later. Yet many English learners demand that every spoken sentence arrive already polished. That is unrealistic. Real speech is messy. Native speakers restart sentences. They change words. They forget names. They use fillers. They correct themselves. They say things like, "What I mean is, let me say that differently. I forgot the word, but it's something like, you know the thing you use for. That's not exactly what I mean." This is normal communication. But English learners often interpret any hesitation as evidence that they are not fluent. That belief creates even more pressure. Then more pressure creates more forgetting. And now you have a cycle. You forget a word. You panic because you forgot. The panic makes retrieval harder. You become more self-conscious. You lose another word. You leave the conversation thinking, "My English is terrible." But the real problem may have been your reaction to the first missing word. This is why you must change your relationship with pauses. A pause is not a disaster. A pause is time. Use it. If a word disappears, do not immediately attack your memory. Stay inside the conversation. Keep breathing normally. Explain around the word. Use a simpler word. Say, "I can't remember the exact word, but it's the thing that." It means something similar to. What I'm trying to say is, suppose you forget the word receipt. Instead of freezing, say, "The paper they give you after you pay. Congratulations, you communicated." And something powerful happened. You taught yourself that forgetting one word does not destroy the conversation. That reduces fear. Lower fear means lower cognitive load. Lower cognitive load means easier retrieval. Many learners believe confidence comes after perfect English. Usually the opposite is more useful. A certain amount of calm acceptance must come first, because your brain retrieves language better when it does not feel like every sentence is an exam. So when a word disappears, remember this: your job is not to prove that you know English. Your job is to communicate. Those are not the same goal. If you communicate the meaning successfully, you are speaking English successfully. Lesson 3. Stop learning words alone. Train them inside phrases. A single English word is weak information. A word inside a phrase is powerful information. Consider the word decision. If you memorize only decision equals sign a choice, you know the meaning, but speaking requires more than meaning. You need to know what naturally comes before and after the word. We say, make a decision, difficult decision, final decision, good decision, bad decision, important decision, decision about something, decision to do something. Now the word is connected, and connected information is easier to retrieve than isolated information. Your brain works through networks. One idea activates another. When you say make a, the word decision may arrive automatically because the phrase has been practiced as a unit. This is one reason fluent speakers often sound fast. They are not constructing every sentence one word at a time. They rely heavily on chunks. Chunks are groups of words that behave almost like one unit. Think about phrases such as, I don't think so. At the end of the day, to be honest with you, the reason is that, as far as I know, I'm not used to. It depends on. I was about to. I have no idea. That makes sense. If you practice these phrases repeatedly, you do not need to rebuild them from grammar rules every time. They become available as complete patterns. This saves mental energy. And saved mental energy can be used to find the more important words in your sentence. Suppose you want to explain why you did not accept a job. A learner who speaks word by word may think, I did not accept because salary. A learner with chunks may already have, the main reason I didn't accept it was, now half the sentence is ready. The brain only needs to retrieve the key idea. The salary was too low. This is why phrase training can dramatically reduce mid-sentence forgetting. Your brain no longer has to search for every brick individually. Some parts of the structure are already built. Here is how to practice this. Whenever you learn a useful word, do not write only the word and translation. Write 3 natural phrases with it. Take the word confident. Instead of confident = sure about yourself, write feel confident, sound confident, become more confident, confident about speaking, confident enough to try. Now create sentences. I feel more confident when I practice before meetings. I want to sound confident even when my English is simple. I'm becoming more confident about speaking with strangers. Notice how much more usable the word becomes. Now imagine doing this with hundreds of everyday words. Your vocabulary begins turning into a speaking system instead of a dictionary. There is another advantage. Chunks reduce grammar decisions. For example, instead of learning the verb depend by itself, learn it depends on. Now you do not need to stop and remember which preposition comes after depend. The phrase carries the grammar. Instead of memorizing interested, learn I'm interested in. Instead of memorizing good, learn I'm pretty good at. Instead of memorizing used, learn I'm used to. Language becomes easier when grammar is stored inside useful patterns. This is how children learn much of their first language. They hear repeated patterns. They copy them. They later understand the grammar inside them. Adult learners often do the opposite. They learn the rule first and hope speech will magically become automatic. Sometimes it does. Often it does not. You need repetition in real phrases. Try creating what I call a speaking bank. Not a vocabulary notebook, a speaking bank. Every entry should be something you can actually say. For example, I'm not completely sure, but the way I see it, one thing I've noticed is, I used to think that. What surprised me most was, I'm still trying to figure out, if I had to choose, the biggest difference is, what I mean by that is, I didn't expect it to. Practice these until they feel easy. Then combine them with new ideas. I used to think that I needed perfect grammar. One thing I've noticed is that I speak better when I'm relaxed. The biggest difference is that I don't translate as much anymore. Now your English has momentum. And momentum matters. When the beginning of a sentence comes automatically, the rest often becomes easier. So do not only learn words, build roads between words. Because isolated vocabulary sits still. Phrases move. Lesson 4. Train retrieval before you train speed. Many learners want to speak faster, but speed is not the first problem. Access is. Trying to speak quickly before retrieval becomes reliable is like trying to run on a path you have never walked. You will stumble. First, make the path clear. Then increase the speed. This is where one of the most powerful practices in language learning becomes important. Deliberate retrieval. Deliberate retrieval means intentionally forcing your brain to find words and phrases without looking at them. One very effective exercise is called One Topic, 3 Rounds. Choose a simple topic. For example, my morning routine. Round 1. Speak for 1 minute. Do not prepare too much. Just speak. I usually wake up around 7. The first thing I do is check my phone, which I know is probably not a good habit. Then you will probably pause. You may forget words. Good. Those pauses reveal what your brain cannot access quickly yet. Now stop. Think about the words or phrases you needed. Maybe you wanted to say alarm, snooze, get dressed, make coffee, leave the house. Review those phrases briefly, then do round 2. Speak about the same topic again. This time you will probably speak more smoothly. Why? Not because your English improved magically in 2 minutes, because the retrieval paths were activated. Now do round 3, same topic. Again, you may be surprised by how much faster and more natural you sound. This exercise teaches you an important truth. Fluency often improves dramatically when the brain has recently retrieved the language it needs. So your job is to make retrieval less dependent on recent activation. How? Repeated retrieval across days. Today, morning routine. Tomorrow, morning routine again. 3 days later, again. 1 week later, again. Each time your brain receives the message, this language is useful, keep it accessible. Memory adapts to demand. If you repeatedly demand a word, the brain gets better at providing it. If you only recognize the word while reading, the brain learns that recognition is enough. Your training tells your brain what kind of performance you expect. This is why vocabulary apps can sometimes create an illusion of progress. You recognize more words. Your score increases. Your streak becomes longer. You feel productive. But if the activity rarely asks you to produce language freely, speaking may not improve at the same speed. You trained recognition. You became better at recognition. That is logical. To become better at speaking, you must train speaking retrieval. Another powerful method is the 5-second answer. Ask yourself a simple question. What did you do yesterday? Give yourself no more than 5 seconds before you begin. Not 5 seconds to prepare the whole answer. 5 seconds to start. Yesterday then continue. Next question. What is something you want to improve? I want to improve. What kind of movies do you enjoy? I usually enjoy. What is something that annoys you? One thing that annoys me is, why does this work? Because many learners accidentally train delayed English. They give themselves unlimited preparation time. They translate. They build the sentence. They check the grammar. Then they speak. But real conversation does not always give you 30 seconds. So you need controlled pressure. Not panic. Controlled pressure. 5 seconds teaches your brain to begin before everything is perfect. And beginning is important. Once language starts moving, retrieval often becomes easier. You can also train with picture descriptions. Look at a random photo for 10 seconds, then look away and describe it. Do not stare at the picture while speaking. Looking away forces retrieval. The picture showed a family sitting outside. I think there were 4 people. They were eating something. The weather looked. You will forget details. That is fine. The goal is not visual accuracy. The goal is fast language access. Another exercise is word rescue. Think of a word you often forget. Maybe appointment. Now create 5 situations where you might need it. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I need to cancel my appointment. Can I make an appointment for Friday? I forgot about the appointment. My appointment was moved to next week. Say them today. Say them tomorrow. Say them again 3 days later. Soon the word begins to appear faster because it now has multiple pathways. You are no longer trying to remember one isolated item. You have connected it to actions, situations, questions, and sentences. That is how retrieval becomes strong, and only after retrieval becomes reliable should you push speed. Speed without access creates stress. Access naturally creates speed. Lesson 5. Learn to speak around missing words. One of the hidden differences between struggling speakers and resilient speakers is not how often they forget words. It is what they do when they forget. Some speakers hit a missing word and stop completely. Others go around it. This ability is called circumlocution. That is a complicated word for a very simple skill. Explaining an idea when you cannot remember the exact word. This is one of the most valuable speaking skills you can develop. Why? Because even advanced speakers forget words. Even in your first language, you sometimes say, "What's that thing called?" You know, the machine that. The person who. It's similar to. So why do we expect second language speaking to contain 0 missing words? That is not realistic. The goal is not to eliminate every vocabulary gap. The goal is to make vocabulary gaps less dangerous. Suppose you forget umbrella. You can say, "The thing you use when it rains." Suppose you forget dentist, the doctor who works on your teeth. Suppose you forget charger, the cable I use to charge my phone. Suppose you forget generous, someone who likes giving and helping people. You stayed inside the conversation. You did not surrender control, and often something interesting happens. While you explain around the missing word, the word suddenly returns. Why? Because you stopped staring directly at the blank space. You activated related concepts. Those concepts helped your brain reach the target word. This happens in your first language too. You say, "It's that tool, you use it to tighten." Oh, a screwdriver. The description becomes a bridge. This is why I want you to practice speaking around words intentionally. Do not wait until a real conversation exposes the problem. Train it. Make a list of 20 ordinary objects. For each one, describe it without saying the name. For example, a refrigerator. It's a large machine in the kitchen that keeps food cold. A pillow. It's something soft you put under your head when you sleep. A passport. It's an official document you need when you travel to another country. A neighbor. A person who lives near you. Now do the same with abstract words. Disappointed. When you hoped something would happen, but it didn't, and you feel bad about it. Reliable. A person you can trust to do what they promise. Confused. When you don't understand what is happening or what something means. This practice builds flexibility, and flexibility is one of the foundations of fluency. Many learners have a rigid model of speaking. They imagine there is one correct sentence, one correct word, one correct way to express the idea. So if that exact path is blocked, the whole conversation stops. Fluent communication is more flexible. There are almost always several ways to express the same meaning. I'm exhausted. I'm really tired. I have no energy. I feel completely worn out. I need to rest. Different vocabulary. Similar message. The more ways you can express an idea, the less power one forgotten word has over you. This also changes your confidence. Imagine entering a conversation with the belief, "If I forget one word, I'm finished." You will be nervous. Now imagine entering with this belief, "If I forget a word, I'll explain it another way." Completely different feeling. You do not need complete control over English. You need enough flexibility to keep moving. Think of a river. When a stone blocks one part of the river, the water does not sit there complaining. It moves around it. Speaking can work like that. Your sentence was going one way. A word disappears. Move around it. Keep the meaning flowing. This is not bad English. This is communicative intelligence. Lesson 6. Build vocabulary around your real life, not random lists. Many learners know strange vocabulary they almost never use and struggle with simple vocabulary they need every day. Why? Because vocabulary learning is often organized around textbooks, exams, apps, and random lists rather than the learner's actual life. You may know words like agriculture, environmental, historical, manufacturing, economy, but struggle to explain what you did at work today, why you are tired, what happened to your phone, how you feel about a friend, what you want for dinner, why you changed your mind. This is backwards if your goal is conversation. The most powerful vocabulary is not the most impressive vocabulary. It is the vocabulary your life repeatedly demands. Your speaking English should be built around your world, your family, your job, your studies, your routines, your opinions, your problems, your interests, your future, your memories, your personality. This is what I call a personal language map. Take a notebook. Write 8 areas of your life. For example, work, family, health, daily routine, travel, money, relationships, learning English. Now under each area, list things you often talk about. Work, deadlines, meetings, manager, clients, projects, problems, schedule, salary, promotion, stress, family, siblings, parents, children, marriage, responsibility, visiting, arguments, support, celebrations, English, confidence, vocabulary, practice, pronunciation, mistakes, fluency, listening, grammar, speaking, progress. Now ask yourself, can I speak comfortably for 2 minutes about each of these topics? If not, that is where your vocabulary training should begin. Suppose you often talk about work meetings. Learn phrases like, we discussed, the main issue was, I suggested that, we agreed to, I wasn't completely sure about, the meeting was postponed, we still need to decide, I'll follow up tomorrow. These phrases are valuable because your real life will repeatedly call them. Repeated use strengthens retrieval automatically. This is one reason people sometimes become fluent in a narrow professional area very quickly. A hotel receptionist may not know advanced English literature, but they can speak smoothly about reservations, rooms, check-in times, payments, complaints, and directions. Why? Because they retrieve that language every day. Frequency creates access. Your daily life can become your curriculum. At the end of each day, ask, what did I want to say today but couldn't? This question is incredibly useful. Maybe you wanted to say, the electricity went out. I overslept. The road was blocked. My battery died. I changed my mind. I had to reschedule. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not in the mood. These are your words. These are your phrases. They came from your life. Learn them that evening. Use each one in 3 sentences. Bring them into tomorrow. Now vocabulary learning becomes connected to real communicative need, and the brain remembers meaningful information better than random information. Think about the difference between memorizing, postpone = delay, and remembering the moment you needed to tell your colleague, we had to postpone the meeting. One is an entry. The other is an experience. Experiences stick. You should also build story vocabulary. Choose 5 stories from your life that you tell often. Maybe a difficult day at work, your first trip abroad, a funny childhood memory, how you started learning English, a challenge you overcame. Learn the vocabulary needed to tell those stories clearly. Then practice telling them again and again. Why stories? Because stories naturally repeat useful language. Past tense, feelings, sequence, cause and effect, descriptions, reactions. You begin building stable pathways for common speaking structures, and because the story belongs to you, you are more emotionally connected to the language. You are no longer memorizing English. You are attaching English to your identity and experiences. That is powerful. Lesson 7. Fluency grows when you stop demanding instant perfection and start building automaticity. There is a moment every serious English learner must eventually face. You must decide whether you want to sound perfect immediately or become fluent gradually, because those goals often fight each other. Perfection says, do not speak until the sentence is correct. Fluency says, speak, notice, improve, repeat. Perfection fears mistakes. Fluency uses mistakes as information. Perfection stops at missing words. Fluency works around them. Perfection is obsessed with performance. Fluency is built through practice, and automaticity is the bridge. Automaticity means something becomes so practiced that it requires less conscious effort. Think about tying your shoes. When you were a child, it required concentration. Now you can do it while talking. Think about typing your password. You may not even consciously think about every letter. Your fingers know the pattern. Think about driving a familiar route. At first, every action required attention. Mirror, signal, brake, turn, speed, lane. After enough practice, many movements become automatic. Language can develop automatic patterns too. When you first learn, could you please? You may consciously think about each word. After using it hundreds of times, it becomes one unit. Could you please? It arrives. This is why repeated speaking matters so much. Not repetition without thought, meaningful repetition. You need certain language to become boringly familiar. Many learners avoid repetition because they think, I already studied this. But studying something once is not the same as automating it. Musicians repeat scales. Athletes repeat movements. Actors repeat lines. Speakers rehearse speeches. Why should language learners expect one exposure to create automatic performance? It will not. You need loops. Here is a powerful 20-minute daily routine. 5 minutes. Rapid phrase retrieval. Take 20 phrases you are learning. Hide the English. Look at the idea or situation and produce the phrase aloud. 5 minutes. One topic speaking. Choose one familiar topic and speak for 2 minutes. Repeat the same topic 2 or 3 times. 5 minutes. Retelling. Listen to a short piece of English, maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Then turn it off. Explain what you remember in your own words. Do not try to copy every sentence. Retrieve the meaning. 5 minutes. Personal speaking. Talk about your day. What happened? What annoyed you? What surprised you? What are you planning tomorrow? Record yourself if possible. That is 20 minutes. Nothing magical. Nothing glamorous. But done consistently, this routine attacks the exact problem that causes words to disappear. It forces access. It strengthens phrases. It builds flexibility. It creates repetition. It lowers the need for translation. It turns knowledge into movement. And there is one more habit I want you to build. When you forget a word, do not only feel frustrated, collect it. Every forgotten word is useful data. Keep a small list called words I needed but couldn't find. This list may become more valuable than a random vocabulary book, because every item on it has already proven that you need it. Maybe today you forgot appointment, tomorrow, refund, next day, recommend, later, awkward. These are not failures, they are training targets. For each word, learn 2 or 3 phrases. Create personal sentences. Use it in a 1-minute monologue. Review it a few days later. Then the next time you need it, the path will be stronger. Maybe it arrives. Maybe it arrives slowly. Maybe you still forget it. Then train it again. This is how automaticity grows. Not through one dramatic breakthrough, through hundreds of small successful retrievals, and one day something beautiful happens. You are speaking, a sentence comes out, then another. You use a phrase you used to struggle with. You remember a word without searching for it. You continue talking, and maybe you do not even notice. That is often how progress appears, quietly. The thing that used to require effort becomes normal. The deeper reason words disappear. Now that we have covered the 7 lessons, I want to go deeper. Because there is a psychological side to this problem that vocabulary exercises alone cannot solve. Sometimes when people say, "I forget English words," what they really mean is, "I become afraid when I cannot control my English." That fear matters. Language is personal. When you speak, people are not only hearing vocabulary, they are hearing you, your ideas, your intelligence, your personality, your humor, your confidence, your values. In your first language, you may be expressive, you may be funny, you may tell stories beautifully, you may know exactly how to defend your opinion. Then you enter English and suddenly become a smaller version of yourself. Your ideas are bigger than your vocabulary. Your personality moves faster than your sentences. That gap can hurt. You know who you are, but you cannot always show it. And when a word disappears, it can feel like proof that English will never fully belong to you. But please understand, a missing word does not measure your intelligence. A pause does not measure your potential. And temporary difficulty retrieving language does not mean the language is not growing inside you. You are building a new communication system. That system needs thousands of repetitions. There will be awkward moments. There will be conversations where you leave thinking of 10 better sentences you could have said. There will be words you know perfectly on Monday and somehow forget on Tuesday. There will be days when English feels easy and days when it feels strangely far away. This is normal. Human performance changes. Even professional athletes have bad days. Even musicians miss notes. Even experienced speakers lose their train of thought. Do not demand mechanical consistency from a human brain. Instead, look at the direction. Are words becoming easier to reach over months? Are your pauses becoming shorter? Can you explain around missing vocabulary better than before? Can you continue after mistakes? Can you speak for longer? Are common phrases becoming automatic? That is progress. Do not measure only perfection. Measure recovery. A fluent speaker is not someone who never experiences difficulty. A fluent speaker is often someone who recovers quickly. They forget a word and continue. They make a mistake and continue. They misunderstand and ask. They need time and say, "Give me a second." They remain inside the conversation. This skill changes everything. The mid-sentence rescue method. Let me give you a practical method you can use the next time a word disappears. Remember 4 steps. Pause, simplify, describe, continue. First, pause. Not for 20 seconds. Just one calm moment. Do not immediately fill the silence with panic. Second, simplify. Ask yourself, is there an easier word? Maybe you wanted to say frustrated. You cannot remember it. Say angry or annoyed. Maybe you wanted to say purchase. Say buy. Maybe you wanted to say approximately. Say about. Simple English is still English. Third, describe. If no simple word comes, explain the idea. I can't remember the word, but it means. It's something you used to. It's a person who. It's when you feel. Fourth, continue. Do not apologize for 30 seconds. Do not abandon the whole story. Continue. This trains emotional resilience inside conversation. For example, I went to the store because I needed to buy I forgot the word, the thing you plug your phone into. A charger. Yes, a charger. Anyway, they didn't have the one I needed. That is successful communication. You lost a word, you recovered it. You continued. The conversation survived. Every time you do this, you teach your brain that forgetting is manageable. And when forgetting becomes less frightening, speaking becomes easier. Why translation makes word retrieval slower? Another major reason words disappear is that many learners still access English through their first language. The process may look like this. Idea. First language word. English translation. Grammar check. Pronunciation. Preach. That is a long road. Imagine doing that for every important word in a sentence. Of course you will pause. Of course words will sometimes disappear. The goal is to gradually build more direct connections. Idea. English. You do this through repeated context. When you see a chair, think chair. Not the word in your language, then chair. When you feel tired, think, I'm exhausted. I need a break. I didn't sleep well. When you are hungry, I'm starving. What should I eat? I haven't eaten all day. Connect English directly to experiences. This is why self-talk is so useful. Self-talk gives your brain repeated opportunities to connect real life with English. You are cooking. I need to cut the onions. The oil is getting hot. I added too much salt. You are getting ready. I can't find my keys. I'm already late. I need to leave in 5 minutes. You are working. I need to finish this first. I'll reply later. I completely forgot about that. This is not childish. This is neural training. You are building direct pathways, and direct pathways are faster. You can also think in fragments. Many learners believe thinking in English means creating beautiful, complete sentences inside your mind all day. No, think simple. Too tired. Need coffee. Where are my keys? Not a good idea. I'll do it later. This is taking forever. Fragments are natural thought. The goal is to reduce dependence on translation, not to perform perfect grammar inside your own head. Final message. The next time a word disappears in the middle of a sentence, do not treat that moment as proof that your English is weak. Pause. Simplify. Describe. Continue. Then come back to the missing word later. Put it into phrases. Use it in personal sentences. Retrieve it again tomorrow. Return to it next week. Teach your brain that this is language you actually need. That is how vocabulary becomes available. You do not need to know every word before you speak. You do not need perfect grammar before you enter a conversation. You do not need to eliminate every pause before you can call yourself a real English speaker. You need to keep the meaning moving. Some days your English will feel quick. Other days it will feel slow. Some conversations will surprise you because everything comes naturally. Others will remind you how much you still want to improve. Do not judge the entire journey by one difficult sentence. A missing word is not the end of your thought. It is simply a place where your brain needs a stronger road. Build that road through retrieval. Build it through repetition. Build it through phrases. Build it through speaking about your real life. And most importantly, build it by continuing even when English is not perfect. Because fluency is not the ability to speak without ever getting stuck. Fluency is the ability to get unstuck. One day, a word that used to disappear will arrive immediately. Then another will arrive. Then a phrase will come without translation. Then an entire answer will come before you have time to overthink it. And you may suddenly realize that the English you spent years collecting is finally becoming easier to reach. That is the transformation you are training for. Not perfect English, available English. English that moves from thought to voice. English that stays with you when the conversation becomes real. So keep speaking, keep retrieving, keep building the connection between what you know and what you can say. And when one word disappears, do not let your whole voice disappear with it.